Okay, so you go out into the streets around Christmas time, and you're gonna see some lights out there somewhere. Um, but it's like there's lights usually everywhere. Some streets you go on, it might be like completely full of lights. Some streets there might be like one house that has the lights on them, but usually you go out and you're gonna see some lights. Where does this thing come from? Are we putting lights on our houses and maybe even on our trees inside our houses? Well, too, if you think about it, the main holiday that we're putting the lights on our house, or we're using lights to celebrate, is Christmas. We don't put lights on our house to say celebrate our birthday or Easter or other holidays. So it seems like it might have something to do with like there's this darkness in December, or there's Christmas is supposed to be this really joyful holiday, and maybe that's why we put the lights up. Just stuff you think about before we get into actually why. Well, it turns out it's actually pretty new for using lights at Christmas time. The lights actually started in the 1800s. We use these lights to actually decorate Christmas trees. And then lights on Christmas trees actually comes from decorating these Christmas trees and houses with candles in Germany in the 1600s. And religiously, they're saying that the candles in the houses around Christmas time symbolizes Jesus as the light of the world. That's what they say. And candles were actually put on trees with pins or melted wax. And this tradition actually, after it came from Germany, but afterwards it kind of spread around the rest of Europe. And the first outdoor lights, though, actually came a bit later from Thomas Edison in 1880 when he put them outside his lab. It was near this railway station, and people on the train could see those lights. Anyone going on the train could see his lights. And it was actually Edison and this coworker he had that was working under him. His name was Edward John, and that both of them actually made the first set of lights. I think it was mostly his coworker that did it, and it was actually these from these small bulbs, and it was a set of like 80 lights or so. And in 1890, the lights were actually rushed. Special Christmas lights were actually rushed into like stores everywhere, and people kind of saw these displays and they wanted them too, and they used them indoors for the first time. But there was a lot of people that were still left out. The lights were still expensive, so it took a while until like a few years before the lights got cheaper and people could actually use them outside. The lights mostly caught on in 1895 when the White House actually put them in to have their first Christmas tree with lights. And at first, before the lights caught on, people were mainly using candles, like in Germany, as the lights were just way too expensive at first, and it cost a lot of money to put them in. It might have cost $2,000 a year just to put lights on your tree, light up that whole Christmas tree the way, say, you do now, if you have a Christmas tree that you light up. So they use as candles for like, say, a few minutes each night too, and it was just around Christmas time, so they didn't have it like now where people start lighting up their trees, say, before November. I'm not sure when the earliest people put lights up in is, but I think people put them up maybe before November. A lot of people put them up in November, and people run them all night. it wasn't like that back then. It was just like a few days around Christmas, and then they had it lit up for a few minutes. And they specifically put their Christmas trees in windows so you could see the lights on them, or say the candles on them when they lit up the tree. And people had buckets of water nearby in case the trees caught fire, which they did often, and especially if they were using candles. I think mainly in the case when they were using candles. And then the Christmas lights actually weren't really that cheap even a few years later. It took like a lot of different companies to come along and sell them. And you had one of the main companies was this Noma, who was actually the biggest Christmas tree light company in the 1920s. Started it by actually combining 15 Christmas light companies, and that was in 1925. And they did that because there was this huge fire in New York City that happened because there was candles on a tree, and they really wanted to put out these safer Christmas lights. I think it was because they were safer. And that really kind of pushed the sales of the Christmas lights, and it spurred like a lot of other companies to come along and compete in the market, and they actually there ended up being more competition, and that brought down the cost of the lights. And it was in the 40s and the 50s that the lights actually caught on even more. They got a lot more affordable, and people started putting a lot more lights on their trees and on their houses even. They put them on their house to look like this Christmas star that they say led the three wise men to the manger where Jesus was born on Christmas Day. That's what they say. And people really started lighting up their houses completely. A lot of people go very far in lighting up their trees. Nowadays, as the lights kind of became a lot better and cheaper, it's been a lot easier for people to buy them and put them up around their house. These lights kind of used just balls before, but they burnt out all the time. And when you had like one bulb burn out, maybe the whole string of lights wouldn't work. And a lot of the times you'd have to go like say every year and maybe buy new lights depending on how much you use your lights. So you have to replace them a lot of the time. But now they got these LEDs that last a lot longer. They can last for years, and they're way better quality. And you might have like these lights that you don't have to change for say so many years. And it's become like so much easier for just anyone to go grab some lights, put them up around their house, and kind of like brighten your mood, and it's kind of become this way that people just celebrate and bring in Christmas time when the time comes every year. Especially like I was saying at the beginning, in December it's really dark out, and people like to see lights in the dark, especially when there's different colors. And the holiday's supposed to be happy, like in mood, and kind of having the lights kind of helps people be in that mood. And it just seems like the lights kind of came from this natural progression where we had this tradition for lighting trees with candles, and now we kind of use these electric lights because it's this newer technology. It's kind of like this modernizing from that old tradition. And you got these lights too that can go places where the candles can't, and that's outside, and people put them out there outside too. They light up their houses, and you see these huge displays everywhere of lights. And some people have so many lights on their house that it looks maybe like like a star, like they're saying. So, and it's become more affordable to use lights too. Like, say, if you want to put lights up, back then, like so many years ago, the electricity might have been really expensive to use all those old bulbs. Like each bulb added up to so much electricity. It might have been not so cheap, and now with the LEDs, I think they use a bit less electricity, and it can be way more affordable to use, and really you can use them at any time, day or night. They can be on the house, and most people are using them at night, I think, but you can use them whenever. You don't have to worry about fire hazards as much, and it's kind of become like this brightening up of the time of year, and it's came from our tradition. And I'm gonna try and put out some more other Christmas videos, and subscribe.